Hello and welcome to our WhatsApp Engineering Live. During this discussion, we will be talking about life at WhatsApp, how our engineering teams work, and why our panel decided to join WhatsApp. More than 1.5 billion people in over 180 countries use WhatsApp to stay in touch with friends and family, helping people connect and share no matter where they are in the world. I'm your host, Manpreet, London Engineering Site Lead. We want to make this an interactive session, so please start posting comments and questions, and we'll get to as many as we can throughout this 45-minute session. Our panel of engineering managers and engineers come from around the world, so let's meet them. Let's start with intros. Tell us your name, your role and team, and how long you've been at the company. You want to start with Jean?
Sure. Hi, my name is Jean. I am the engineering manager at WhatsApp Developer Velocity team here in London.
My name is Wayne. I'm a software engineer. I started off on the WhatsApp product team, but currently I'm working on WhatsApp payments here in London. I've been at Facebook for about a year and a half.
Hey, I'm Ryan. I'm the engineering manager of the WhatsApp internal infrastructure team here in London. And basically, I've been at WhatsApp for about 8 months, but previous to that, I was at Facebook for about 9 years. So I've been around a while, but not too long at WhatsApp.
That's great. So about me, I'm Manpreet. I'm the WhatsApp engineering site lead at London. Overall at WhatsApp, I've been here for about 6 years. That's great. So let's go on to the next question. Tell us about your career journey and how you got here.
Sure, I guess I can start that one.
Sure.
So I started studying computer science and engineering at University of Toledo. I graduated in August of 2015, and I joined a company called BottleRocket shortly after that. They're known for building things like the Chick-fil-A app, NBC, Mary Kate, things like that, right? So some large names that I got to work with. I was there for about a year and a half, and then I ended up joining a startup type company. It's like an ebook reader called Bookshout. As I transitioned from BottleRocket to Bookshout, though, I was interviewing with Facebook, and the way that I found out about Facebook's opportunity is a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn. And she basically said, hey, we're interested in interviewing you. And I always knew that I wanted to go to Silicon Valley. I wanted to join Google or Facebook. I always had it in the back of my mind. But I was putting it off, prepping for it, because I heard about the interviews. I'm like, I don't really feel like it. I had a big book, the Cracking the Coding interview book, that was sitting on my desk collecting dust for a good year and a half. But I'm like, maybe there's a sign that I should go ahead and take that leap, right? So I did my phone screen, and I'm like, okay, this went okay. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to invite me on site or not. But I get a phone call from the recruiter about a week and a half later, and she says, hey, we want to bring you on site, Wayne. And obviously, like, my heart dropped. I'm like, this is like really exciting stuff. Like, I'm going to Silicon Valley. I had never been to California at the time. I'm like, man, this might actually happen. So that's when I started taking preparation a lot more seriously. So I went ahead and prepped. I had a whiteboard in my office, so I would do like coding problems. I would time myself. I'd be talking to myself as if somebody was actually interviewing me. It was really cool. It was like a very nice experience for me, right? So fast forward to June 2017, I fly out to California to do my on-site interview. I felt like it went really well, and obviously it did because I got an offer not too shortly after that, and I ended up joining Facebook in September of 2017. I went through boot camp. Boot camp was about 7 weeks for me. While I was in boot camp, though, I was on campus, and I ran into one of the engineers that actually interviewed me. And he said, hey, come try us out at WhatsApp, because during boot camp, you get the opportunity to try different teams. And WhatsApp wasn't even on my radar. I'm like, I'm joining Facebook. I'm obviously going to be working on a Facebook product. But he was like, hey, come try us out. And as I sat down and as I started working on the product and realized the mission behind the product, I just fell in love with everything. I like the development process. I like how they treated the engineers. I like how we worked together. Just everything just worked out for me. All the pieces fit for me. So I've been there ever since.
That's a great story. Yeah. Awesome. Want to go next, Ryan?
Sure, yeah. So my career story, I graduated from University of Washington, and I was looking at various companies then, but then I got the opportunity to do a master's degree, and I really always wanted to do that. So I took that opportunity. I turned down all the companies that had given me offers previously, and I thought, they'll give me an offer again, and I was wrong. I actually found out that after going back to school for my master's, I didn't see the same amount of, this was back in 2008, so it was a little bit of a down year in the economy in the U.S., and I didn't get the same offers I did before, so I started looking a little bit more broadly, and went to a tech talk at University of Washington by Facebook, and it piqued my interest, so I submitted my resume, did an interview similar to Wayne, and got asked to come in for an on-site in California, and it went well enough, and they extended me an offer. And so I was making a choice between staying in my home state of Washington or moving down to California. And I kind of decided now's the time to try to get out of my bubble a little bit and try something new. Ended up being a really good choice. So over time at Facebook, I worked on things like databases, Memcache, source control, a lot of infrastructure things. So when a friend from my bootcamp class reached out and said, "Hey, would you be interested in WhatsApp? We're growing in London," it piqued my interest, and the team that they were looking for a leader of was the WhatsApp internal infra team. So I thought, that sounds right down my alley. I started checking it out, and it looked like a really good opportunity for me. And so about last year in October, I started hanging out with the team, went back to California to meet everybody, and decided, I'm going to do this. And fast forward 8 months, and here I am, and we have a really healthy, growing team here. It's been really good.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Jean, what
Yeah.
about you?
I can go next. Yeah. When I was studying computer science in school, I interned for a small company. At the time, we were making a video sharing website, which was really innovative and fun. But after working at a 5-person student-built startup, I felt like next job I want to go somewhere where I can get more mentorship and support. So after graduating from college, I decided to go work for WhatsApp as my first job out of school. Now, after working there for a couple of years, I felt like I'm not making as big a tangible, visible impact. I couldn't really see the work that I'm doing impacting the users. And I wanted to take some time to think about what I want to do with my career, where I want to go in life. So I decided to travel around a little bit and trying out different work, trying out different locations. During a while where I started using WhatsApp, some of my friends were using it, and it was really great when you're traveling internationally. After a couple of years, I decided I really want to go back to Silicon Valley. I'm ready to work in tech again, and that's where I'm from. I'm from San Francisco. So I started looking at opportunities that were available at the time, and I happened to find WhatsApp, a product that I had been using. I went in to talk to the founders. At the time, we had about 30 engineers, and I really felt like the founders had a strong vision, and there's a lot that I could learn from them, and I was ready to work for a smaller company where I can visually see my impact of the work. So that's why I started working at WhatsApp 7 years ago.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. To share a bit about me, most of my career I've actually worked on in different enterprise startups in California, one after another. Most of them were enterprise startups, very different from what WhatsApp is. At some point, I wanted to experiment with something different because I was getting bored with what I was doing. I started dabbling with mobile development, specifically iOS. I was also passionate about real-time communication, so I built something of my own which provided voice and video calls on iOS. It was an app. And at some point, I got an opportunity to work at WhatsApp. I met the founders to do something similar that I was doing, but at a much bigger scale. And that was just an amazing thing for me to hear, because I had been a WhatsApp user before, and I found WhatsApp to be really useful and fun to use. So when I joined WhatsApp, it was very exciting. I loved the culture, the place, the office, and the culture resonated with me. So over the years, I've actually worked on basically VoIP, voice calling, video calling, started working on it. Many other folks joined, and we kind of expanded the team while working on this. And we delivered voice calls, video calls, group calls. Been working on that for over 6 years. And then I got the opportunity to come to London, which is an amazing place, to be the engineering site lead. So I jumped on it and excited.
Awesome.
Great. So on to the next one. So what are the some of the exciting things being built at WhatsApp?
I can kind of talk about this for a little bit. So the reason that I came to London, because before February of this year, I was actually in our main campus in Menlo Park, California, working on the Android product just in general. But I came here to support us launching WhatsApp Payments here in Europe. So payments is a huge effort for us right now, and we're launching that in many countries, and it's been pretty exciting so far.
That's great. Yeah. I'd like to add to that. I think there is sometimes a perception that WhatsApp is this amazing big company that the product is doing well, so there's not maybe things to add. But we are working on a lot of very exciting projects across WhatsApp. Payments is an excellent example. We are doing other things in monetization. There's a lot of features being added to the various clients to make the user experience even better than what it is. And then we also have a strong integrity effort. We're working on developer infrastructure. There's an expanded engineering team working on all sorts of things. So it's very exciting. It's a great time to join WhatsApp. So let's talk about what are the principles that guide your work at WhatsApp. You want to go for it, Jean?
Yeah, sure. There are multiple engineering values that we talk about a lot at WhatsApp, and there are a few that really resonate with me. One of them being that we are building features that are for the most underserved users in the world. That means when we're building out the feature, we start from the beginning thinking about people who maybe got their smartphone for the first time, or people on low-end devices, or people with maybe really not so strong network connectivity. And we're building out features that everyone will be able to use. And that really goes throughout the entire development cycle. As part of our job for the developer velocity team, we build out testing frameworks, and we always think about looking at the lowest possible APIs with the highest number of users, so we can ensure that even the people on the lowest devices can enjoy all the features that we are currently working on. And that's also related to how simple our apps are. I remember Jan used to always tell us, I want even a grandma who got a smartphone for the first time to be able to just look at this app, right? Yeah. And just use it intuitively. And recently, a friend of mine who's from Germany was telling me about a story. Her mom used to always call her asking, how do I read my email? How do I scroll down on the screen? But she recently got a smartphone and she put WhatsApp on it. And her mom stopped calling her because right away she knew how to send messages. She uses WhatsApp to now share photos of her grandchildren. And she's just using it without any tech support from my friend. And it's been a really great experience for them. And that's exactly representative of what we are looking for. Even grandmas who got first smartphones or people on lowest end devices are able to use WhatsApp because it's simple and really reliable.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I'd like to add to that. Simplicity has always been one of the important values for WhatsApp. My dad, similar story. My dad, who would never use email or anything on a computer or a desktop, is now on WhatsApp all day long. He doesn't just leave it. Simplicity is important, has always been important. Whatever WhatsApp has built has been simple for users to use. We always build things for our users. Another important value is focus, which is doing one thing and doing it really well, focusing on quality, which is another important pillar. So quality basically means doing the best thing that we can, best job that we can, and building anything we can. For our users, keeping our users first, making sure that they have a good experience. There's also another important thing that we focus on, which is privacy. WhatsApp, we look at WhatsApp as a channel which is private and completely secure for our users. We want to make sure that they feel confident in using WhatsApp in terms of privacy. So end-to-end encryption is another important thing that we built to that end. And we also minimize data collection of any sorts in the interest of our users. Great. So tell us a story about somebody that used WhatsApp to make their life easier or better.
Yeah, I can do that. So some of the principles you're talking about, especially privacy, security, that is actually part of this story. So I have a brother who's a bit skeptical of social media and stuff, and he doesn't really go out there a lot, log into it. So when I was trying to find a way for my family, which is distributed all over the world now, I have a sister who's lived in Italy, and I'm here in the UK, and across the US, other bits of my family. I was looking for something I could get everybody to use. And, we have different devices, we have different networks we're on, and found out that everybody was pretty cool with WhatsApp because of that strong reputation for privacy and security. So my whole family, I got them to start using WhatsApp, and it's gone really well. We stay in touch. We have a get together every couple of years. We call Cousin Camp, where we get together and we stay in touch on threads about that, wishing each other happy holidays, and today 4th of July. So that's been really nice to stay in touch that way all across the world. And I think it's really made my life better, but also my family's lives, to be able to stay in touch across such big distances.
That's great. That's great to hear. So let's move on to the next question. What keeps you inspired or motivated to work at WhatsApp?
I'm gonna take this one. So one of the main things that I like about WhatsApp is the fact that we focus on reliability, as Gene was saying earlier. We focus on supporting the lowest end devices, essentially. So we build for that user first, and then everything else, of course, scales, right? And just like the amount of users that we have as well, and the fact that we're connecting these people and allowing them to communicate with their loved ones across the world. Like a large portion of this world uses WhatsApp, and so when you're working on a feature, you know that many people will be using this, and you put that just that much more care into it because you just know the level of impact that this feature could have on people's lives. So yes, just the fact that we connect people all over the world, the fact that we connect people that may not have the best devices and the best network and the best resources, all they really need in order to use WhatsApp is to have a device and have a reliable network connection. So I think it's just a beautiful thing, and it's also free. So
That's great. I'd like to add to that. I think the thing that really resonates with me is the engineering culture at WhatsApp, which is this idea of focus and doing things really well, focusing on quality, keeping our users first. And that to me generates this beautiful culture at WhatsApp, which I love, which I resonate with. And that's what is an important part of keeping me at WhatsApp. The other thing is this satisfaction, this feeling of impact that you have with users. WhatsApp has over 1.5 billion users that we serve. And with this engineering team, it feels like it gives you an amazing feeling that you're serving so many users, which with this engineering team, it's very satisfying. All right. What was the reason London was picked as a location for growth at WhatsApp?
Yeah, I can answer that question. I think London's a great city. I recently moved here about a year ago, and I've been really enjoying all the things that are happening in the city and the opportunities to travel around to the other European countries. And it's a really international city that probably attracts a lot of talent. And a lot of people are willing to relocate to London. That gives us a really diverse pool of candidates that we can talk to. And even though WhatsApp was founded in America back in Mountain View, California in 2009, we actually have a really big user base outside of US where we have a lot of users in the European market, and it makes sense for us to be closer to our users, which also means the candidates that we're talking to are often passionate about WhatsApp. They often use WhatsApp every day, and those are the type of people that we love to work with. And that's part of what makes us really great, because people who are working with us really believe in making and building the product that we use every day.
I totally echo that. Like I found, you go around the U.S. and people have heard of WhatsApp, but they're not normally daily users. But here in the U.K. and across Europe generally, where we pull talent in, everybody is a heavy WhatsApp user. They're very passionate about it. I don't have to go and tell people like, oh, this is WhatsApp and why you should be interested, and then here's the team. I just say WhatsApp, and they're like, tell me more, right? And that's really nice to be able to work with people that are passionate and care that much about the product. It's really nice.
That's great. Awesome. So the next question for you guys. What are the most challenging technical problems you're solving right now?
I can take a stab at this one. Like, one of the things my team works on is providing support to our users. So if you ever have an issue, you can write into us, and we'll have somebody take a look at that and try to get back to you with some solutions, or let you know when we've resolved the issue that you're looking at. But as our user base grows, we can't just keep, it's impossible to answer every single request individually. And so one of the things we want to get a lot better at is to start bringing some machine learning into play here that will allow us to do a better job of automating some responses for common queries. So if you have something that's really esoteric, we're still going to get that to a human to take a look at and figure out what's going on. But we can do a lot better at getting common queries answered much more quickly, and much more accurately than basic rules currently provide, by leveraging things like machine learning. And I'm really excited about going from 0 to 1 in this space on my team, because we don't do any machine learning on my team right now. And getting the infrastructure built up that will allow us to do that, I think, is going to be a very exciting technical challenge, but also really impactful for our users.
Yeah, makes sense. I think I'd like to add to that from my VoIP experience, having worked on voice calling and video calling. So launching all these features initially is one thing, but as you launch them, we notice that we have such a diverse set of users across different networks and devices that getting it to work reliably and really well is a big challenge. So over the years, as we were launching all these features, we also had to put a lot of effort in improving quality and making sure the quality is great. Somebody starts a call in one part of the country and calls somebody one part of the planet and calls somebody else in a different country. It could be any kind of device, a low-end Android device, a high-end device. It could be a 4G network, an LTE network, great Wi-Fi, or a low-end network. So across these different networks and devices, it's really hard to maintain quality and make sure that the call quality is good enough for the user. That has been a big challenge for the team, and that has led to a lot of good ideas within the team, a lot of problems we solved over the time, and as the quality keeps getting better, the problem gets harder and harder, because to get to the next level of a challenge and making the quality even better gets harder and harder. So it's been an interesting challenge for us. All right, so we have an audience question. Sean asks, what has been your favorite day or moment since you joined WhatsApp?
Favorite day, or what was the
Or
second part?
favorite day or moment since joining WhatsApp?
Since joining? I guess I can kind of answer this. So one of the first features I worked on, if you use the voice recorder, you used to have to hold the button indefinitely, like while you're recording. Obviously, this can be problematic if you're like driving. I mean, don't use your phones while driving, kids. I'm not saying that, but basically, we added a feature to where you could lock the recording to where you can record hands-free. So after we launched that feature, we received a user story. So somebody had a stroke, and because they were able to lock the voice recording, they were actually able to send the message that actually got their life saved. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And that was kind of one of those moments as well where I kind of realized just the scale in which I'm doing things now. And I'm like, wow. It gave me a lot of pride to work on WhatsApp.
That is amazing. That's a great example, yeah. Go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I have a small story. I have been working for WhatsApp. Before moving to London, I had worked at WhatsApp for 6 years in California. And I always knew that we had a lot of users in Europe. I know we have over a billion users, but when I actually moved here, I noticed people who don't know that I work at WhatsApp were asking me to add them on WhatsApp, and that's when it really hit me. Oh, people really do use our app. And that really is small incidents. It really gave me a lot of joy and pride.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. I have something to share as well. I think for me it was really exciting. When we launched voice calling, it was building momentum over the years, and we kind of made it better for a year and a half. And then we got this increasing request from users to add video calling. We had this dilemma where we wanted to support voice and make it better, but also personally I wanted to add video calling. I love the video calling experience. I wanted to add that. So we worked towards that, and when the point came where we started releasing it to beta users and saw their excitement and all the leaks and the news and all that started coming, and people started getting excited, and finally when we launched, it was super exciting. And since then, in the following months after that, there was a lot of excitement. There was user research. I remember one specific story where the user research team went to India, and they actually got a recording. I wasn't a part of the trip, but they got a recording where they went to a city where the network was not that great, and there was a woman making a video call to her sister in another city, and they were basically trying to study how the quality is and how we adapted to the networks and how well we were doing, and they asked her how the call was, and she basically said this was excellent, and they were trying to get out of her what the pros and cons were and all that. And she talked about only one thing. She said, before WhatsApp video calling was there, I could occasionally talk with her, maybe on the phone. This enables me to see her every day, and this is just priceless for me. So that was really amazing to see actually and witness in a video. That's pretty amazing.
That's great.
Very cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have another question. So how do you collaborate with other teams in WhatsApp or Facebook?
I can talk about this one a little. So, we as the internal infrastructure team collaborate both with other teams within WhatsApp, but also teams across Facebook. So one example is actually I've worked with Jean's team or my team, I should say, has worked with Jean's team to improve the way that we automatically detect truncations for translated languages in the app. So that's pretty cool. Like if there's a button that you can't read the full text on it, that's not very usable. So we've developed some ways of not only detecting it, which is a lot of what Gene's team did, but then uploading it into our translation system so our linguists can see the problem and figure out ways to correct it, or we can escalate to engineering and make the button bigger. That's one example of within WhatsApp kind of collaboration. Outside of WhatsApp, with the larger Facebook community, one of the ways that that we're planning to, or that we do work with them, is on exploring machine learning avenues. We're not building a whole machine learning platform from scratch. We're leveraging some of the best machine learning technology that exists that Facebook has already built to build on top of. So we really get to stand on the shoulders of giants there, and we don't have to build everything ourselves, which has really allowed us to move a lot faster in this area.
Yeah, that really helps, for sure. I can add to that, again, drawing from my VoIP experience. So VoIP is a feature that we built within WhatsApp, but this actually gets shipped in multiple client platforms, so Android, iOS. So the VoIP team worked with multiple client platforms, also the server team for the traffic and for signaling. At the same time, Facebook Messenger also has a similar product, so there's a lot of interaction going on with Facebook Messenger on idea sharing, how do we improve quality, putting our heads together, trying to get the best practices and improving quality together. So there's a lot of collaboration happening on all those fronts.
I actually have a question for you, Manpreet. What do you think makes a great engineer or engineering manager here at WhatsApp?
It's a good question. I think it comes down to some of those values we talked about before. I think a great engineer or engineering manager is someone who puts our users first. It's a great thing to build something solid and high quality, but if you also keep our users in mind as to what their experience would be, putting yourself in the shoes of the user, that makes a big difference. And that's a hallmark of a good engineer or EM. At the same time, I think, as you said before, focusing on a few things and doing them really well, focusing on improving quality. When it comes to, a lot of the times it happens that you have this new feature that's going out and there is something that is problematic with something we've already shipped. At WhatsApp, it's always quality first. Whatever a user has today needs to be of the highest quality before we ship new features. So some of those things are all together, which are important for a good engineer or EM at WhatsApp.
I can piggyback off of that as well from an engineer perspective. I think one of the most important things, just to kind of add to what Manpreet said, all of those are very good, is that you're testing your feature on lower end devices as well, especially on Android, where we have a broad spectrum of devices that we actually ship for. So just making sure that your feature performs. So running multiple tests. I mean, obviously you can't aggregate every device out there, but just having like a good variety of devices to test on when you build a new feature. And of course, just keeping things simple. So the most simple solution to the problem at hand. Like, don't over-engineer things and just do what is necessary and only what is necessary. That is I think that's a big thing for being an engineer at WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's an important point. I mean, simplicity is important for sure. Simplicity both in terms of the user experience and also in terms of how we architect things.
One thing I really like to see in an engineer is curiosity. So when you see something that doesn't look quite right, pull on that thread, figure out what's going on, because that leads to sometimes to the biggest improvements or things that we just didn't know. We can learn a lot that way. I have so many examples. I don't know if I can choose just one, but like one thing I remember recently was we found out that our web pages we were serving were bigger than intended, especially for markets with lower data usage needs. And pulling on that thread, we found out that there was a way to drastically reduce the size of them by just turning on one switch, essentially, which was a pretty important win we had.
That's great. And that's very interesting. So on to the last question for today. What was your bootcamp experience like?
I'd love to answer this one.
Yeah,
I'm pretty passionate about bootcamp, actually. So when I first came to Facebook, bootcamp was a relatively new program, but it's largely stayed the same. Sort of the ethos has definitely stayed the same, even if the program itself has gone through a few iterations. And what really set it apart for me was like I had worked at a few other companies, but coming to Facebook where I could actually talk to the engineers who were and get presentations from the engineers who are experts on the subject. Like, it was very different from looking at an outdated wiki and talking to the other new hire to my left or my right who was just as confused as I was, which were experiences I'd had at previous companies. So for me, being able to put that face and the name to the expert and be able to follow up with them with questions and get deep, meaningful answers was just a super transformative experience for me. It really helped me feel that I was launching my career much more quickly, that I wasn't just muddling in the complexity of not knowing how things worked. And then on the other side, I've been a bootcamp mentor a few times where I try to give that same experience to our new engineers and make sure that they can ramp up as quickly as they're capable, and that we're not putting any like roadblocks in the way where they have to go out of their way to find some information. There's an experienced person who's your mentor there who can help you ramp up as quickly as possible, learn all the tools, learn the culture and the lingo and everything. And so by the time you graduate and you find yourself a team, which is another, I think, cool aspect that you talked about, finding the team that really works for you. You're totally ramped up already, and you're ready to go and start making impact right away. To me, it was a really great experience.
That's a great story. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So I did say that was the last question, but we have an audience question. So the question is, which language do you use for your backend, and why did you prefer that over other languages?
Well, so there's the main backend, I think, is somewhat famously at WhatsApp. It's in Erlang. My team doesn't actually work too much in Erlang. We kind of touch some of the API level stuff. We mostly work in Python, and for some of our more front-end stuff, we use React, some of the modern JavaScript frameworks. But coming back to like the chat infrastructure, that core Erlang stuff, Erlang, I think the name came from Ericsson language, Ericsson being one of the big telecom companies that developed it. And it was really all about communication. It was a language designed from the ground up to be really good at message passing and building a language around those concepts. And that's why it's a very natural fit for messaging that we do today. I don't know if you guys have done more. I've only been around for 8 months, but have any of you done more on that side?
I haven't done any server stuff without. The same thing I've heard. Erlang is the main language that we use for our server.
Yeah, that's true. I think Erlang is the main language we use for the backends. There are specific components that use C++. For example, for VoIP backend, for the relay signaling. So not the signaling, the relay data transfer. We use C++ for the backend. But for chat infrastructure and most of the services, I think that is correct. Erlang is the language that we use.
Awesome.
Great. All right. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our live stream session. Thanks to our panel, and thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our discussion about our work at WhatsApp. We are hiring, so please check out our careers page at facebook.com/careers. Take care. Thank you.